us know about that. Dr. Howard, if you have your microphone, make sure it's close to your mouth.
Okay.
Good? Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Howard, for being here, and welcome to
my
Jacksonville City, and Jacksonville City Schools. Today is Wednesday, June the 1st, and we are proud, I know you are too, to be one of our finalists.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
And we have some questions for you.
Sure, absolutely.
So we're just going to go down the row and ask you a few questions, and then
Okay.
at the end, if you want to add anything or tell us more about yourself or anything, that'd be great. As I said, we had 5 finalists for this position.
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you apply for this position in Jacksonville City Schools? And give us a reason maybe why the board should select you in this position.
Well, I can spend hours on talking about myself, but no, I'm just kidding. I'm really good friends with Dr. Mackey, and he speaks highly of Jacksonville. And, you know, Mr. Newell and I have had many conversations. We've seen each other at SSA conferences, and so I've been a part of it and kind of know the atmosphere and know the expectation level here. And you know, you want to be a part of something like that, because my goal has always been have high expectations, high accountability, have high standards, and great things will happen for those around you. And I want to be a part of something like that. And, you know, Don Killingsworth, new president of JSU, he and I went to high school together. And so, you know, he's calling me immediately when he saw that it was going to be posted and said, hey, you need to put in for this because our partnership, we know each other. And so it was just kind of everything started aligning perfectly to where, you know, this could be a reality where I could be a part of something in Jacksonville and be able to, you know, continue my superintendency and be able to help in any capacity that I possibly can. To answer your question on why I'm better than everybody else, I don't know really. Because I'm not familiar with the other candidates. I can tell you that you're going to be hard pressed to find a candidate that works as hard as I do. Because my granddaddy said, a man is only worth 2 things: his work ethic and his word. And so I pride myself every day to make sure I get the most out of today. I have high standards for myself. You know, that's the reason I push myself. I was the first university graduate in my family. I was the first person to get a master's in EDS and now a doctorate. And because I want to push myself and make myself better, because at the end of the day, my goal is to do what's best for staff and students of my school system. And if I'm not bettering myself and pushing myself toward those things, then I'm not leading by example. And if I don't lead by example, and if I don't strive for excellence for myself, then how can I ask anybody else to do the same thing? And then complacency sets in, mediocrity, and I don't function in that environment. I want to be pushed, I want to be excitable, I want to keep working forward. And you know, the other thing about me is I believe in strong community partnerships, because we all have to work together. And this being a college town, there's got to be a strong correlation between us and JSU, and also Gaston, you know, state and other local, you know, colleges and footprints from around the area. But we have to make sure that if this school system is to be what you want it to be, and have those high expectations and the high standards and preparing all students moving forward, then we all have to come together. It has to be a partnership between parents, students, staff, community members, city government, county government, whoever it may be. That's an important aspect. And so I know I bring that to the table, because being a county-wide superintendent that has 11,000 staff and students, that has 10 mayors, city governments, and I have to foster those relationships daily in order to make our school system in St. Clair the best it possibly be, because we don't have much money. And I had to lead a tax referendum campaign. And if I was the only voter, it would have passed with flying colors, right? But I had to do all that I could do of meeting with different, community leaders, meeting in city council meetings, going and speaking to whoever I could speak to foster that relationship so that they would trust me in what I'm saying that we need as a school system, what they need as a community, and believe in that, and then hopefully vote yes to the referendum that we were trying to pass. So long answer, I know, but those things are what make me who I am.
Well, if you were to receive this position, be placed in this position, what do you see as one of the biggest challenge in your first year?
All right.
What would be the biggest challenge?
Well, because I am a sitting superintendent in Alabama, I know that part. So there's no learning curve about learning the position of superintendent. So I don't have to spend the first year trying to figure out how to do certain things, how to, approach the board about certain things and, policies and procedures and know, what I got to do with the state and all that. So that part is easy. So now we start focusing on relationships. And really in year one, it's all about building relationships and a system of trust. And those relationships starts with you five and me first. Our relationship with each other has to be rock solid. We have to trust each other. I have to trust that you're going to provide the vision for this school system where you want to see it to go for the next 20, 30, 40, 100 years. And then I need you to trust me to carry out those wishes. And that's important. If you want it to work well, we have to be on the same page at all times. And I'm a former football coach, and I truly believe that there can be multiple voices, but there has to be one message. And all of us have to be on the same page, saying the same thing. And that goes not just the people in this room, but also everybody at central office, the principals, assistant principals, the teachers. When we go into community, we're saying the same thing. We will be the best, period. And to be the best, and we have to have a level of excellence that we expect from every single person. And so in that first year, that is going to be pivotal for me. I've got to develop those relationships with the community that they can trust me as well as you trust me. That when we have to discipline a student, they know it's fair and consistent. When we have to make a decision on non-renewing somebody, it's fair and consistent and it's going to help students. When we have to hire somebody, expand and come up with money to, build a middle school, whatever it may be, that they trust that we're using our money effectively, that we're being efficient with it. But none of that happens, and they can't build that trust if I don't start developing those relationships in the first year. And so that's my biggest thing, is hit the ground running with that and to make sure that we're doing what we have to do there. And the last thing I think is very important, not the last thing, but the next thing I think is very important is determine what's the good, the bad, and the ugly. What I mean by that is what is going well, but what is going well, but what can it be even better with a little bit more refinement, fresh set of eyes and those type things so we can make what's great even better. The bad is, what's not going great right now, but with some refinement, with some, tweaking to it, that we can turn this thing around and make it even better in this area. And the ugly is what I call the vampire. It sucks resources from the system, of its time, its energy, and its finances. And if we run across programs of that nature, we've got to cut ties and move on, because you can't keep throwing money at a vampire, because it's going to continue to bleed you dry. And that was one of the things I had to do when I stepped in at St. Clair County. I had to evaluate people and programs immediately, because we were not making 1 month reserve when I stepped in. And you know how that goes. You have to go in front of the State Department if you don't make your 1 month. So we were, right around 400,000 in the wrong when I stepped in January 1. And so I had to sit down with our CSFO and say, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to cut spending in this area, this area, this area, and this area. And I'm going to evaluate programs after program to make sure if I'm spending $1 million on something that's being recommended to the board members, we've got to make sure that it's truly benefits our staff or our students. If the answer to that is no, it doesn't matter whose feelings gets hurt that we're not going to use that program, but we can't do it. And lo and behold, by year's end, the fiscal year, we had 1.01 months in reserve. So I didn't have to go in front of Dr. Mackey and the rest of them to tell them what I was going to cut or whatever. And since then, thank goodness with ESSER and everything else, we've been to expand on that, and we're now at 1.8. But it takes right at $6 million a month to run St. Clair County school system. And, I have a $100 million budget that we have to deal with and everything else. But those are the things that are going to be really, really vital in that first year of operation with me.
Dawson?
The next one has several parts to it, so I'm just going to do the first part, let you answer that.
Sounds
the next
great.
Part.
Perfect.
Okay. What do you see as the role of superintendent as it relates to employees, students, parents, and the community?
Well, a superintendent, first of all, has to be supportive. The superintendent cannot be seen as the boss. That's not who I am. Yes, at the end of the day, I'm going to have to make recommendations to you, and I know that whenever I walk into a school building, everybody's demeanor changes just a little bit. I get all of that. But it has to be a partnership. It's very important to me to build those relationships, partnerships, whatever you want to call them, with our employees first, because I can't be seen as the enemy. When I walk into a school building, I can't be seen as the guy who's going to fire people or the guy who's going to cut this or this. It's got to be a partnership that I'm there to make sure. I want to see great teachers teaching. I want to see great learning happening. I want our central office staff to know that this is a distributed leadership role that I'm under, that I want their input on how things go, because I am only successful because of my team around me. I cannot do this alone. Because if I could, then why have boards of education? Why have principals? Just let the superintendent just handle everything. It doesn't work that way, because I'm only successful by the people that are around me, because I believe in employing the best. If you want to be the best, you surround yourself with the best and you listen to them. You don't micromanage them. Now, I want to be involved and I want to know what's going on, because y'all are going to want to know what's going on. So I want to be able to tell you what's going on, but I want them to be able to do their job. And so I'm a very supportive person. And people say I can be hard. The perception is with me, because I'm intense. I'm a football coach. I'm a go-getter. And the perception before I became a principal was, I don't know if we want to work for him. He's going to be, have you heard about it? He's tough. He's a coach and everything else. Then they didn't want me to leave to take the superintendency. And then before I became a superintendent, it was the same thing. Central office was scared. Is he going to come in and fire everybody and change it? Then all of a sudden they realized, like, no, your opinion matters. I want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly from your perspective. And then we're going to work together to make this thing happen. So I think that's the role of a superintendent to his employees, is developing that. But also with that part on the employees, you have to create opportunities for advancement, because employees have to feel valued in what they do. We don't get paid enough. None of us do. Everybody can agree to that. But you don't have enough money to pay people what they're truly worth in this environment. So, but you got to develop them opportunities to be promoted and a chance to where their voices are heard as well. So in St. Clair, we didn't have a leadership development program when I stepped in. We did not develop our future leaders of our schools. It didn't matter if a teacher wanted to be an assistant principal. That didn't matter. If they wanted to be a teacher leader in the school, we put them through 101 classes, Leadership 101. And we got representatives from every school, because we want to develop more leaders from our own staff. We want to grow from within. That was our whole purpose of leadership in St. Clair. We wanted to grow people from within. We wanted to be able to say, all right, teachers, you've been through our courses. You know what it takes to be an assistant principal. You know how our code of conduct works. Why we discipline? Why we do this? We go through all this stuff with them. Then we want them to apply for assistant principalship. Then assistant principals. I have a monthly meeting with our principals and a monthly meeting with our assistant principals, and I have 36 total of both of those. And we train our assistant principals how to take the job of a principal. We want them to understand budgeting, because when I stepped in, I left Oak Mountain as an assistant principal and came over to be a principal in St. Clair. At Oak Mountain, we had 4 assistant principals, because we had 1,600 students in the one school I was in. And my job was custodians, maintenance, technology, making sure, and I was athletic director because of my coaching background, and I had 11th grade discipline. That was it. That was my focus. I didn't know what seniors did. I didn't know what freshmen did. I didn't know what the finance, the budgets. I didn't know what, the counselors were doing, because I was focused and I had my blinders on one thing. Then I got the job to be a principal where I had to know all of it. And I only had one assistant principal, so it was only so much that you could delegate to the assistant principal. And so I made a pledge to myself then that once I became superintendent, because that was my goal at that point, at some time I would be able to move up. I would develop a leadership course for our assistant principals so they were ready. And I took it upon myself to train my assistant principal, who I brought in with me when I became a principal, to take my job. And I just had the job, because I wanted to train him to take my job, because either I moved up or I moved on, and he needed to be ready for that next step. And he became the principal and has success and everything else. So that's how you grow from within, and that's the important role that the superintendent plays with employees. Now, yes, sometimes you got to be the hammer. Things aren't going well, and you got to be the hammer, unfortunately, and you're going to hurt people's feelings. And I don't sleep at night, because I have 11,000 staff and students that I have to oversee. And I fully understand that every decision I make affects staff's livelihoods and affects students' futures. And that's something I don't take for granted and I don't take lightly. And so I look at all the angles, but sometimes you have to say the word no, because it's the most important word they need to hear. And sometimes you have to say, I'm sorry, we can't do that at all. Or, you know what, if you'll go back and look at this different angle on it, come back to me with a different plan, because I think you're in the right direction, but I need to see more. That's how you build the camaraderie and trust with staff. And I know I'm rambling and I'm sorry, but the next thing I think you said, students. Superintendent with the students has got to be known as a supporter. Students have to feel supported by their superintendent, by their principals, by their teachers. We've got to be seen. I've got to be seen at athletic events. Obviously, I'm a coach, so I love seeing athletic events anyway, but I also need to go to the plays, and I need to go see them, playing youth ball, on the weekends and those type things, because one, the community will see me, which will build that camaraderie with them, but two, the students will see me. They won't just see me as this guy who walks in, who's in a suit, and he's, the president is what I've been called of St. Clair, by the little kids. And so, they're like, well, here comes the president coming down the hallway. It's like, no, it's all good. I'll sit on the floor with them and I'll read them a book and we'll play in pre-K and we'll do all this other stuff, because I wanted them to see me not necessarily as a friend, but as somebody that they can trust, and that's very important with our world today. Is educators are seen as the enemy by so many folks. And the only way to change that is to show the students we're not enemies. We're here as your support staff. We want to support you so you can be successful when you cross that stage. So that's the ultimate goal, is to make sure that we do that for our students. The other thing about the students is it's important for me to be fair and consistent. You treat every single student the exactly same way. I don't care if you move in from Detroit, Michigan, which we have a lot of move-ins from Detroit for some reason, in St. Clair. It doesn't matter if you're that person, you're the starting quarterback, or you're the son of a well-known lawyer in our county. You're going to be held to the same standard all the time. You step out of line, there's consequences. I'm giving you the same consequences I would give somebody else. You know the line, you know not to cross it. You get respect from the students. They may not like it, but they'll respect you for it, because you know that you're treating everybody the same. And you'll also get the respect of everybody else you didn't have to discipline, because they know and they see and they hear how you handle certain situations, even though we don't disclose those confidentiality that gets out there. And so you want to know that everybody's held to the same standard. There's no favorites. Everybody's on equal footing. And I also believed in tabula rasa, which means at the end of every school year, we have a clean slate. You are who you are when you show up that first day. You can change your life. And I told my kids this when I was a teacher: I don't care what you did last night. I don't care what you did last year. What I care about is what you do from this point forward. And if you don't do those things, then you're setting yourself up for failure, but I'm going to give you that clean slate. I'm going to give you the opportunity. And the same thing with our code of conduct and our discipline ladder, which I'll talk about at some point, I'm sure, tonight. It resets every year. But during that year, there's consequences for your actions. We're going to prepare you to be a better version of yourself. And at the end of the year, we're going to reset that. And we're going to start over, because we know you grow and we know you're going to be better next year. And so that's how you got to set it up for the students. And you got to provide them opportunities. I believe in the 3 A's: academics, athletics, and the arts. Every single student needs to have the opportunity to belong to something. All of them can choose one of those 3 areas. And I'm a proponent of athletics, obviously because I'm a coach, but I've seen it save kids' lives. I'm a proponent of the arts because I've seen people who've never been a part of nothing join band or join drama club or join whatever it may be, and all of a sudden belong to something. Their behaviors are better, their grades are up, and then they walk across that stage accomplishing something. It's not always about academics. Yes, academics is important. Please don't read that it's not, because it is. But if you belong to something, academics is going to take care of itself, because they got to stay eligible for the other things. And so it's very important that those 3 E's are promoted, or 3 A's are promoted every single day for me as a superintendent. And when I bring things to you to vote on as a board, know that it falls in those 3 categories. And staff also fall in those 3 categories. We want to support them the same way. Parents and community, I'll probably combine those if that's okay.
Yes.
Kind of going on the same thing as what I said with students. Parents need to see me as fair and consistent. I'm not going to win everybody over. You make a decision, COVID, wear a mask. Half the people hate you, half the people love you. Don't wear a mask. The other people now love you, and the other people hate you. Come to school, don't come to school, have virtual. It was a nightmare. As you know, you've lived it too. So you can't make everybody happy, but the decisions that you make have to know, and they have to know, and I will, do everything I can to promote the system to make sure that they understand this. Every decision that the board and I make is for one goal, and that's to prepare our students for what's next. All of our resources, our time, our energy is preparing them for the next chapter of life. It doesn't matter if it's the next test. It doesn't matter if it's the next play in football. It doesn't matter if it's the next, whatever, ACT score, or when it's the next career choice that they've picked right after high school. We have to prepare them. And so the community and the parents need to know that that is my priority, number one, is to prepare them for what's next. And by doing so, we're also preparing the staff themselves, giving them the resources that are necessary for them to be great so they can be great for our students, which our students can be great for them. It all intertwines. And the community is very important because if you don't have buy-in from the community, we're not going to get anything done. We can only do so much. We can only generate so much resources. We can only devote so much of our own time. If we don't have parent volunteers, we don't have communities willing to, volunteer their time in PTOs or whatever it may be, we're not going to be successful. We can sustain, we can keep the boat rowing in a direction, but we can't give them anything extra. And eventually, over time, mediocrity sets in, complacency sets in, and that's not a good thing. And I can't be a part of that. And I don't think any of you want to be a part of that because then we're not growing, we're not getting better, and we don't live up to the standards we set forth for ourselves. So, very long answer, I know, but,
Great.
that's the role I see,
Yeah, and the next question was what should be done at the district level to notify and recruit involved parents? I think you've
touched on that a little bit.
You've already touched on that, so let's go on to the next part. This is a very diverse community.
Mm-hmm.
How would you work to ensure all groups are fully engaged?
Yeah, and luckily, in my county, we have a extremely diverse county. We have a 1A school that is extremely rural, full title, very, very poverty stricken. We have a very affluent school that has lots of money, in the community. We have a one that has a high rate of migrant workers that come in for 2 months, then they move down south, and they're ebb and flow. And so I've had experience working in all of that arena. The biggest thing is when you do programming, when you do events, when you do the 5-year strategic plan, when you're doing all these opportunities for parent involvement, you have to make a conscientious effort to reach out to everybody. You can't just put out a blanket statement, hey, we need parents to help serve on this committee. You will get the same number of parents, the same group of parents every single time. It's like, in a church, 10% of people do 90% of the work. If you put out blanket statements to the parents, 10% of the parents are going to do 90% of the work, and then the other parents are going to feel left out because they were not invited. Well, they may not have known that you put something on the website asking for parent volunteers. They may not have known you put something on Facebook asking for parent volunteers. We have a lot of parents in our system that don't have a cell phone. They can't afford it. They can't afford Wi-Fi. They can't afford any of this stuff. So we have to make sure that we reach out through our principals, through our liaisons, of parent and school liaisons, reaching those students. We got to make sure we're putting hard copies in students' hands. Hey, take this home to your parents. We need their help. You've got to do smoke signals, whatever you can do to communicate with people that you want to involve them, because it's important to get the perspective of everybody, because we're not cookie cutters. We need the perspective of every single person in our county. When we're dealing with teachers, we need a conglomerate that represents the entire teaching population, not just the math teachers or the English. You've got to involve counselors. You've got to involve, the administrators, custodians. You truly have to create the school environment to where everybody's voice matters. And that's the same thing for parents. And so one of those things is, and one thing that we did, when I stepped in, we had the worst website known to mankind. Y'all, it was bad. It was Insights. I don't know if you ever heard that, but you couldn't figure out who was who. You click on something, and it may take you something from 1925. It was awful, and we never updated it, and parents would call all the time. I don't even know who the principal of the school is because nothing's on the website. There's no pictures, and is this a school or, some, state government website, because it's just, here you go. And so we changed to Blackboard when I came in. We started putting pictures of kids and teachers on our website that runs through the banner. We made sure that our teachers had their own web pages, that they uploaded their picture and everything else, my picture's on there so they know who the superintendent is. And we tried to be more personable on the page. Well, then, Facebook is Facebook. And there's a lot of opinions on Facebook. And it became very negative, because people will get on there and just blast teachers on the school's websites. And so we started cutting that back, and we went to Twitter, because Twitter, you can turn off stuff real easy, don't have to see anything. But we also created an app through Blackboard to where you can pull up on your phone, download it, and you can follow any news from any one of the schools or all the schools. You can see pictures, you can see websites, you can see emails, you can see Twitter feeds, Facebook feeds, all on one app. Because our thing is, we want to make it very easy for people to find the information so they can be involved. And so you can include everybody. And so those are the things that we've been able to do there that's helped a lot. But again, at the end of the day, you're not going to get equal representation, because there are some groups and sometimes where parents, they just don't want to be involved. It's sad. And as we all know, with kids, you want to be involved in their lives, and it's sad to see that not everybody wants to be involved. All you can do is do your best to be as diverse and try to include as many folks as you can, so that at the end of the day, when a decision made, you've looked at all the angles.
The hiring of a new superintendent, we want to make the transition as smooth as possible for everyone. How would you help both the educational community and the community at large adjust to the new leadership style that would come with a new superintendent?
And that's going to be because, rumors will go out immediately and about you before you even have a chance to step on your foot on the ground. So it's important that everybody knows, and that I'm not here to make a ton of changes. That's not my goal. My goal is to learn what's going on first. And if changes need to be made, obviously, we're going to make changes if they need to be made, and they're for the right reasons, not just change to be changing, because, all you're going to do then is upset the apple cart, and everybody's going to be mad at you because you just come in here, as a dictator, and, we've been doing this. You know how that goes. And so it's important that transition is that the teachers, the staff at central office, everybody knows, one, I'm here as a support person. I want to know and learn what's going on. Then I will make recommendations as we go. If I see something that needs to be done, I will bring it to somebody's attention, whether it be sweeping the hallway, whatever it may be. And if there's a broom there and I need to grab it, I'm getting it, we're getting after it. And so, those are the things that will help with a smooth transition, that they know, and that I alleviate fears that I'm not here to flip the table over, because it doesn't need to be flipped over. Y'all are doing things great. You have a history of excellence. There are things, can things be tweaked and improved? Absolutely. But I need to learn those things. I can't come in with a thing and say, oh yeah, I know, I've heard about this. No, perception is not how you need to make decisions. You need to know the true data. You need to see it for yourself and with boots on the ground. So I think that would probably help. One thing I've included in your packet. Now, I'm going to talk about my personality here in a minute, and because y'all need to know who I am through and through, and I really want to portray that, because I can answer questions all day, but the people who can tell you who I am are central office staff and my principals. They can tell you, my parents, community members, board members, whoever you want to reach out to. And I've included a list in that packet that I gave you, because I encourage every single person at central office to pick up the phone call and call the people that work with me, because they'll tell you if I'm good or bad. I told them, I said, if anybody calls you for a reference, you'd be truthful, because I don't want to take a job with any misconceptions of who I truly am. And so I want them to do, I want my admin assistant in St. Clair to talk to the admin assistant here. I want my curriculum person there to talk to the curriculum person, because they need to know what I do on a day-to-day basis, because I can tell you how great and wonderful I am, but until you hear it from the people who are in the trenches alongside me, you don't really know who I am. And again, this is our first impression of each other. And as you can see, I'm a coach. I get fiery and get fired up, and I'm excitable. And some people love that and some people don't. But I'm not like this all the time. I'm even keel. I try to be non-emotional in certain things. I try hard. I get fired up on a Friday night, though, when I see something on the sideline. I want to say something. But no, I'm an excitable guy. I have high energy. I'm passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about who I work with, and I'm passionate for kids. And that's what exudes from me. If you've ever taken the color coding personality, the gold, the blue, orange, and green, I'm a gold if you can't tell. And with gold, I'm extremely organized. I'm a special education teacher for 14 years, so I'm extremely organized. I'm a very systematic approach and very logical person. I'm a data nerd. I love data because data doesn't lie. I want to see where our deficiencies lie. I want to know how ways to do things. I'm not going to throw a dart at a dartboard to make a decision. I'm going to make sure that when I bring it to you, you know I've researched it through and through, that I've not slept for weeks probably wrapping my head around what's the best way to figure this thing out. And then when I bring it to your attention to make a decision on it, you know that where my heart is. Now, you still get to vote up or vote down, and you may hate the idea, which is great. I will, I'm a big boy. I can handle when something doesn't happen, because that means I needed to go back and look at it at a different angle, that I left something off the table. So that's my personality at all times. Now, I have an extremely high work ethic. I do. I'm an early riser. I don't sleep. I wake up 2, 4 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I come straight to work. My CSFO, Laura Nance and I, we'd be emailing each other at 4 a.m. because she never slept either, which was great. We'd be emailing each other because, now I'm not saying respond to my emails at 4 a.m. It's just if I think about it, I'm going to go ahead and get it out there, because if not, I will chew on it laying in the bed for the next 2 hours when I can just put it out there on paper, get it off my mind for a minute, and then move forward. So there's a lot of texts that go out at night and everything else, but that's my mind. I'm always thinking about what's next. And, I'm the world's worst at enjoying the moment. And this is a deficiency of mine. And I admit it. When I have success in doing something, I check that box, what's next? Because I want to know what's next. I'm a project guy. I want to know what's coming up. If you tell me right now we're going to build a middle school in 2 years, okay, let's get rolling. And then I'm going to fight. We build it, check. What are we building next? That's just my personality. I want to strive, because that's what drives me. Because if I ever sit back in the chair and it's like, that was a great job we did. Okay, we're good. Complacency, mediocrity, it's not my vocabulary. I can't do it. I can't function that way. I got to know what's next. I got to be pushing the envelope. I've got to be looking outside the box. And so those are the things there. Also, my love language is words of affirmation. Because, and I'm sure everybody's done it in their church, and I need to hear that I'm doing a good job, but I will be the first person to dismiss it. And that's another problem of mine. I like to hear it because I need it, because I hear the negativity and I will chew on negativity, and I will allow social media to consume me. That's why I deleted Facebook, because I was allowing it. As an elected superintendent, it will consume you. Your elected officials, you totally understand how that works. But I just try to, it's hard enough to do our jobs, but when you've got to do your jobs in the worst time in educational history, and you're not going to make everybody happy, but you got to keep 51% of the people happy to keep your job. Something's wrong with that. And so, that's why I could have been reelected. There's no doubt in my mind. But I don't want to be an elected official. I wanted to be an appointed superintendent where I could work for the board for one purpose, and that's to do the best thing for kids, not worry about self-preservation. Because if I do my job and do it well, I should never have to worry about my job. But as an elected official, you always have to worry about your job. You could be doing everything right and still not be voted in. And so those words of affirmation there, the negativity was consuming me during the worst time. And I was depressed. I'll be honest with you. My staff knew, and they were worried about me, because I put that burden on my shoulders. And I've got to know that I'm doing a good job, but here's the thing. It's my staff that does the good job. I'm the benefit of their hard work. That's my philosophy to myself. I want to hear it because I need to hear it to keep me and drive me forward, that we're doing things right. But they're the ones in the trenches more than I am. They deserve all the praise. They deserve the credit. I don't. That's my personality. It's a we thing, not a me thing. And and my wife gets on me all the time. It's like, sometimes you got to enjoy and relish in the moment. And I'm like, but I just can't. And that's a negative side of me, I know. And Coach Saban has the 24-hour rule. I think I have the 24-second rule. Enjoy it for 24 seconds. Now it's on to the next thing. And so, but anyway, so that's my personality on it. So and I don't even know if I answered the question after
No.
thinking about it again, but.
Fantastic.
But I want you to know, if you do select me as your superintendent, who you're getting. Because this is me all the time. I'm telling you, this is me all the time. I'm very passionate about what I do. I don't put on a front, because I believe if you put on a front for you, I can't sustain that front, and the true self is going to come out, and then you're going to regret the decision that you made. And I don't want that to happen. And I don't want central office staff thinking, well, he's like this all the time, but he's a different person behind closed doors. No, this is me all the time. I'm supportive. I'm a go-getter. I'm ready to get started yesterday. I mean, let's roll, that's me, so.
The next question I have is number 5. Teachers and administrators and support staff have taken on more and more responsibilities. So what would you do and say to keep them encouraged and keep their morale up?
Our state, and this is going to be broadcast, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to be honest for a minute, but our state legislators are hurting us. They're placing so much on us as it is. And then they're coming out with new mandates every year. The Literacy Act is, y'all know, it's hard. And thank goodness they pushed the pause button for a year, because we're going to have a major issue when we have to start retaining all these second and third graders because they can't go. But now we're about to have the Numeracy Act for fifth graders. And so, I made the statement today to the principal at the elementary school. I said, we're about to have 700 teachers at the elementary level, because we're going to have 1,000 kids, plus everybody's going to still be in elementary school, because you can't promote them unless you do, all the portfolios and everything else just to find a way to promote them up. That's not fair for our teachers, because when students are retained in that mentality, they are seen as the enemy and the bad guy, that they didn't do enough to teach little Johnny how to read better. It's their fault. No, it's not their fault. There's a lot of underlying reasons why students can't grasp reading right off the bat, and math and everything else. So that's a problem that I don't think any of us can solve, because our legislators, a lot of times they don't consult with educators. Whatever's hot in the communities, whatever gets them reelected is what they normally gravitate toward, and that's the initiative that they pass. This year alone, I'm going to take a little sidebar for his. I'm a special ed. My wife is a special ed teacher. Special ed is a passion of mine because my 2 kids are special needs. And so when they were talking about doing a bonus for special ed teachers, to keep special ed teachers in the profession and to recruit future special ed teachers to come into the profession, I was all for it. And I said, this is probably the best decision y'all have ever had. Give special ed teachers more money? Absolutely, because we can't find them. You gave more money in the team's contract for math and science, which we all agree we needed, because you can't find those teachers either. But you have a deficit in the special education where it's so litigious as it is that nobody wants to be sued every single day of their life, because they're doing all they can for their kids, but they're still going to be sued for it. And I said, so you're losing special ed teachers, and then they pulled it. I was devastated. I said, you had the opportunity for $5,000 a year. That's not a lot of money, but it's something to show that we do hear who you are, and we do worry about you as well. And then they pulled it. I mean, it broke my heart for my wife, for my kids, for my friends who are still in special education, because we're telling teachers, we know that's one of the hardest jobs in education, special ed. It's okay. You're all right. Suck it up. But math and science, we're going to give you more money. You don't ever get sued. You don't ever have to deal with IEPs. You don't ever have to deal with irate parents and lawyers and everything else. But we're going to give you more money because we're deficient. We don't have enough math and science teachers. You don't have more special ed teachers either, but we were ignoring them. So anyway, that was a sidebar. I'm sorry, got on my soapbox. So if y'all can change it, please do. But no. So to really combat the more responsibilities, and this is just, it's one of those things that we all have to pick up more jobs. And that's a part of education that we all, when we go into education, we know that that's going to be a byproduct. You're going to be asked to cover classes that you shouldn't have to cover. You're going to be asked to work before and after school. You're going to be asked to coach a sport that you have no business coaching, but they can't find a coach. You're going to be asked of those things. And obviously the easiest answer is we need to pay them more money. Well, there's a fine line, because you can't bankrupt the school system, because then nobody's got a job. And so you got to find ways to show appreciation and support the staff that you have in other ways. Some of the things that we did, like we took ESSER money twice, two different occasions, with ESSER 2, I think it was ESSER 2, I believe, that we gave a cleaning stipend of $300 to every single staff member in our county. And with 1,100 staff members, that was over $400,000 that we spent out of ESSER for $300. But it showed them that we appreciated them for wiping down doorknobs, wiping down desks, trying to keep our kids and themselves safe. It wasn't a lot, but it was all I could do with ESSER 2. Then ESSER 3 rolls around. We have a lot more money, right? So we did a second stipend for cleaning for $500. And we're talking $600,000 now out of our county, out of the ESSER funds. And so we've only given them $800, but it allowed them to do more. And we did them both before Christmas, so that they had a little bit extra Christmas money to buy presents and those type things. Yeah, the money didn't go a long way, but the thought hopefully went a long way with them, that we're trying our best. We're doing what we can do. Right now, I'm working with my CSFO to talk about the salary matrix. Everybody's going to get a 4%. That's great, but the teacher salary matrix really threw everybody else for a loop, because now everybody wants 35 years and everybody wants that same bump, and you can't do it. It bankrupts us all. And so, what we're going to try to do, and I have a board meeting tomorrow night, and we're going to propose that those hard-to-staff areas, the custodians, the CMP workers, the ones that you just really can't find people, the laborers, we're going to do something big for them, because they're already grossly underpaid as it is. So we're going to bring them up to more competitive, because we're competing against Jax, who's got better health benefits for them and pays more per hour than what we can pay. So we got to make it more enticing. So we're doing that on our end. We also have an administrative issue at the top where there's not a true discrepancy. When I've got 9-month teachers about to make more than our 10-month assistant principals, we got a problem, because now nobody's going to be assistant principal. So I've got to fix the upper end as well. And then it's going to look in the perception that we're paying our administrators more money. No, we're trying to keep them. I mean, that's the thing. But anyway, so money is a key point. But I think, at the end of the day too, you got to support not just their financial needs, but their emotional needs. So two things that we did that has really resounded really well was, one, we created e-learning days for our staff right at report card time. Because, trying to get grades in and trying to do all that, now you're asking teachers to stay hours after school to try to get all that stuff put in Power School, and that was a nightmare. And so we just said, all right, we're going to do an e-learning day. We're 1-to-1 now. We're going to have assignments online. And now we do Microsoft, so we had Microsoft Teams. Assignments will be posted there. The kids will do things at home. Our severe special ed students would still be able to come to school. We're still going to serve lunches. You can come by and grab a box lunch to go, whatever you want to do. So we still met the needs of our special ed students. But we used that time to do our grades, to have professional development, and to be able to celebrate 9 weeks, celebrate end of semester. So we had 4 e-learning days, well, 3, but we had another one built in. And so you would have thought we gave them, $1 million, really, because just that break after a hard 9 weeks to where they actually had time to do report card stuff when they've never had time to do it before. And the other thing that was, monumental, and thank goodness COVID made us do this, we did a stagger day in the first 2 days of school, where we had A through K come on the first day and L through Z come on the second day. And we taught the same thing both days, because one, we wanted to separate all the kids, trying to get to new routines, keep the buses low, all those type things. And the teachers were able to go over the code of conduct. They were able to do reading assessments in the lower levels to kind of have benchmarks to see where kids were, which they've never been able to do on the first day of school ever. And so we did all this stuff. So when I was going around to all the schools the first couple of days, teachers would be pulling me to the side and say, we got to keep this forever. This is the greatest thing we've ever done, stagger these days, because I'm able to get more done. And so on day 3, when I have all the students, we're not just still trying to teach rules and regulations, we're actually working with the students. And so when COVID ended and everything kind of went back, we still have staggered days. The first 2 days are still staggered. Parents love it, kids love it, teachers love it. And I said, something that simple means so much to so many people. Why didn't we do this before? Because it still counts toward your 187 days, so it's all right, because we give them an online assignment with the other students at home, some things to work on. And so those things like that show the staff that you care about their emotional and their financial needs. And then I guess the last thing is They need to feel valued in what they do. If you're going to keep their morale up, they got to know that what they do matters. They need your support. They need my support. They need to know we got their backs. If we're going to ask them to have high expectations, hold people to a high standard, we got to support them when they do it. When they hold kids to a high standard and they raise rigor in their classroom and things aren't going well with their grades because they're held at a different level, we got to be there and say, we got your back. Because we ask you to be better. We ask you to have more rigor. We ask you to have higher expectations. We can't abandon you now because you're doing it. So we got to show them that support, that when parents are complaining, when their back's against the wall, that we're going to be the ones coming out swinging in support of them. And that's my goal as a superintendent, is to show we can agree to disagree, and I might not like what you did, but in front of everybody else, it's the greatest decision you've ever made. Behind closed doors in my office or whatever, we might have a different conversation of ways that I may have handled it a little bit differently, but out there in the perception, I got your back. Now, you do something illegal, unethical, that's a whole different ballgame. But as long as you're doing what we ask you to do and you're taking chances to make yourself and your students better, how can I argue against that? I may not have liked the outcome and may have looked at it differently, but I'm going to support you. And I think if the staff knows I got their back and I'm going to fight them tooth and nail for them, then they will run through a wall for you, just like our students will in sports. So, anyway.
My next question, number 6. Jackson City Schools is known for its high expectations and rigor for all of our students. Our high performance by students and accountabilities are priorities. So how would you lead our school system in continuing this goal, and how would you support our administrators and teachers?
Well, some of it I actually kind of alluded to a little bit, but high expectations of mindset. You know, we can have it on our, our cars, we can have it on our logos, we can do all that. You can say, I want high expectations, but until you hold people to those high expectations and you expect it, it's never really going to really. So you have to develop the mindset that we're going to be better than everybody else. My philosophy has, whether it be academically, athletically, it doesn't matter. If we're playing chess, I don't care. We're going to be against anybody, any place, anytime. If Hoover wants to play us in football, we're going to play for Hoover. And we're going to win. Because as soon as you have the mindset that we're scared of them or we won't win that game, then you're done. You're telling your kids you're not good enough. No, we're going to be the premier destination for everybody seeking a public education in the state of Alabama. That's my goal, period. And you can see from my raising the bar thing, that's my creed, my battle cry, whatever you call it, is raising the bar. Because the bar will never completely reach the top because you're going to continually raise that thing. You're going to raise high expectations. With high expectations comes high accountability. I want you to hold me accountable for my actions and accountable for this school system to run efficiently. I want to be held accountable, because if I'm not, then I'm not growing and I'm not fulfilling my promise to you of having high expectations and holding people accountable. So I need to be held accountable, just like everybody else. Now, you don't win, the score on the scoreboard doesn't necessarily determine a win and a loss. In the eyes of AHSA and everybody else, it does. We lost that game. But did we, though? What did we get better at? What did we do better? What student stepped up, or whatever it may be? We got to look at the whole picture, not just a score. And what I mean by a score, too, is a report card. The state report card does not indicate how good we are. Proficiency scores do. College and career readiness scores do, because that is a measurement of time, not how well did you do on this ACT. You may have had a bad day. You may have came to school, your parents were fighting that morning, you didn't get breakfast, and now we're asking you to take an ACT test. We don't know the reason. So high stakes testing on a report card that we are held accountable for is absolutely bonkers to me, because it doesn't measure what our teachers do every day. It doesn't measure what we do as a board of education every day to support our teachers. We're solely asking them, you need to perform on this test this day. If we're going to do that, then teach the test. Focus everything, all your efforts on mastering that test, whether it be the ACAP, the work keys, whatever it may be. Let's just teach the test. We'll blow it out of the water. We'll have 100 on our report card grade, because that's what the federal government wants. No, I want to see proficiency scores, because proficiency scores is true measurement of what our kids know, what our teachers do. If those scores are not good, we've got an issue. We got an issue with math. I mean, I've looked at the scores. I know we got an issue with math. Everybody in the state does, because we've never focused on math before. We've always focused on MSTI and ARI and pumping a lot of money on the reading side, and math was just one of those, hey, get your calculator, let's just try to figure this out. Well, now all of a sudden, we have to focus on math. We're 10, 15 years behind. And so that's why, over in St. Clair, we use ESSER funds. We have a reading coach in every school. I've employed math coaches across the county, and I didn't have enough ESSER money to put one in every single school because we have, 19 schools, but they are in districts where they're overseeing elementary and middle schools in each district to provide support for teachers and students in those specific areas. And lo and behold, our math scores are going up. And what did they do this year? Start employing math coaches. I was like, man, my crystal ball works great. So, those are the things that if you want to have high expectations, then we have to really put our finances, our time, our resources, our expectations toward that. We want high expectations, and we got to put something in to get something out. We can't just demand it and don't give them resources to do it. We can't just say, students, we want you to achieve a 25 on the ACT and never prepare them for the ACT. It's not going to happen. Now, there will be a few that are just brilliant and just going to score that no matter what. You don't go on a Friday night and say, hey, we're going to play against, Sachs and we're going to win, but we're not going to practice all week. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to go over the playbook. We're not going to do this, but we're going to win on Friday night. No, you're not. You're going to get blown out, But that's, unfortunately, that's what we do in education. We expect and we want and we do and we have all these things in place, but then we don't give them the resources to make it happen. We just expect it. And so if you truly want high expectations, you truly want to raise rigor, then we need to really look at our programming of what we're offering in the system. We got to make sure that that aligns with raising the bar and preparing all students for a successful life. Those two things have got to be priority one in how we do everything. And it doesn't matter if it's athletics, academics, or the arts, that's our focus. And so we've got to support our staff in that endeavor. So yeah, where you are is great, but you better hold on because we're about to be really good. And then what that happens, and the community leaders will tell you, the better the school system is, the higher the regard you're held, that drives industry. And so, we're going to have to start expanding more than just the middle school. I mean, we're going to start expanding everything else because they're coming. They're coming in droves because we're seeing that now in St. Clair County. We got things right. We're growing every year because we have a virtual school that we've never had before that's cost-centered. Developed that since I've been there, myself and my team. I hate saying I, but, I had a little bit to play in that. But we have 600 students, and a lot of those are not even in our school system. They're outside coming in because what we're doing is great things. That's what I expect here. I expect that JSU, every single person who works for JSU will put their students in this school system because we will be the premier school system for everybody else. Nobody's going to Weaver. Nobody's going to Sachs. Nobody's going to Donahoe because they're coming here. That's the goal for the system for me. And you're already working in that direction. I know with my energy and everything else, we can raise that bar even higher, but that's the expectation that we got to have for everybody. I want you to have that expectation for me because that's the only way we can make it happen. So I think I answered it the whole way. I told you I can get fired up now. I mean, I'm trying to hold Coach Howard back, but he just wants to break through. Let me add one thing. I'm sorry. There's one thing that I'm really proud of about high expectations, and I just saw my notes here, and it's very important. Before the state mandated science of reading training, letters training, before they did that and put it on the reading course of study, down there's a little blurb said by 2024, all teachers will be assigned into letters training or whatever. I went to the board and said, look, I really truly believe that we need to focus our efforts and make sure that every pre-K, we included pre-K teachers, every pre-K through fifth grade, we expanded it, needs to be trained in the science of reading. I said, because I know I just had this feeling, and this was way before, I have the feeling that this is going to be part of the certification process at some point. I just had that feeling, and I don't want to wait until 2024 when we have ESSER funds right now. Let's use that and get every single person in our county, pre-K through fifth grade, trained in the science of reading. So we made it mandated. People did not like it. Teachers pushed back. You're giving me one more thing to do. I said, I got you. We're going to give you a stipend to do it. So we paid out of ESSER a stipend for them to get professionally trained. And I said, I got you even better. We're not going to send you to JSU, UAB, wherever these training sites are. We're going to have a cohort here in St. Clair County. So they're coming to us to train only our people in letters. So we started that process. What's happened? Now it's part of the certification process. Colleges are required to do it now, and the state has decided to pay a stipend. I think they stole our idea, but, I can't confirm that. But those things are important, because if you're gonna tell people they gotta read better, you're gonna do all these things, then you gotta train your staff appropriately to do so, and that's how you raise that rigor and that high expectations, because now everybody's trained in the science of reading. Most of our people are in year 2 and year 3, so they're well ahead of the 2024 curve. And teachers are loving it. And they're getting paid a little bit more money now too, which helps during that process. But that's how, going back to your previous question about showing support, that's how we can show them support, is to train them effectively to do their jobs the best that they possibly can. So, sorry about that. I had to throw that in there too, so.
Thanks, sir.
All right, based on what you know of our school system, what do you think is the greatest potential for improvement?
Well, I don't like to come in really with a lot of preconceived notions, because I like to see it and hear it for myself, because perceptions are different depending on who you talk to. But I did research on your surveys that went out to parents and stakeholders, and so I looked through that, and I kind of picked out the things that I saw in more than one place where this was on the minds of a lot of people. So I know but before I can say, exactly talking about those, I want to have individual conversations with each one of you. You're here. You know what needs to be done. You've served on this board. You know where the skeletons are lying in the closets and things like that we have to work on. I want to have those conversations with you, because I need to be the person who carries it out for you. And so we've got to have those honest communication with each other of what truly I need to work on immediately, what can wait a little bit but needs to be done, and what we think will happen in a year or two that we'd like to see. Those are the things that are going to be very important. Now, going by what the survey said, now obviously we have discipline. That was one of the big ones. And I can talk about discipline till I'm blue in the face, because that's one of my strong points is discipline. There's closing learning gaps, which we're all trying to figure out what to do. There's college and career readiness. There's retention and retaining quality staff. Those are some of the things from the survey that I took out that was important to a lot of people. I'm well versed in every one of those areas. I'm not going to go through every single one in detail, because we'll be here all night, because I can talk, as you can tell. But discipline, Now, I'll start when I was a principal. When I left Oak Mountain, Shelby County had a very good discipline ladder system. They had a very good code of conduct. Everything was very laid out. Step 1 is this, step 2 is this. Everybody's held to the same standard. You're not just throwing a dart of, hey, I'm giving you 3 days of in-school suspension for this infraction. Oh, you came in, you know what? You got to play Friday night, so you only get 1 day of in-school, and we're gonna make that happen. No, everybody's held to the same standard. When I came into St. Clair, discipline was not uniformed across the county. This high school did something different from this high school that did something, and that drove me insane, because I'm like, if I'm holding my students to a certain standard, I expect everybody to hold them too. And if my students leave my school, then their discipline ladder goes with them. And same thing, your discipline ladder should come with them, because they don't get to start over if they've been a knucklehead all year long. We're still going to hold with this. We're not going to just, forget that the fact that you, got into a fist fight and now you're trying to leave that school to come to mine, or vice versa. So when I stepped in as superintendent, my goal was not to have a system of schools, and that's where it was. I wanted a school system. We're all on the same page, doing the same thing. So we revamped the code of conduct completely. We implemented a discipline ladder at the elementary level, at the middle school level, and at the high school level. And all of our principals sat down for 2 days at tables, just trying to figure out how we all could work together to make this there. But you know what? A student at Springville was held to the same standard as a student at Moody and at Raglan and at Asheville. It didn't matter where you are, didn't matter who you come from, no matter what car you drive, how much money you have, none of that mattered. You're held to the same standard. And that's important for the discipline side. Just like closing the learning gaps. Now, obviously, I talked about letters. We have summer camps that we have that go above and beyond the State Department's mandated. We really have a lot of tutoring camps and everything that we offer all summer long, so we can feed them, which increases our CMP productivity and allows us to get a little bit more money there. I see you, Miss Gossett, back there. I'm trying to give you a brownie point for myself over here. But no, those things tie, because we need to feed them in the summer, because a lot of our kids don't eat. And, so we want to have summer camps for them, and we offer food all summer long. Even if you're not in our camp, you can come by and grab food because we want to feed you. And so we worked on those type things of trying to really close those learning gaps. I hate saying the word I, but I'm going to say the word I for this time. I developed a program called EdStream, and it's an education for science, technology, reading, engineering, arts, and math. It's an after-school program. We had community ed. It was not going well when I stepped in. I riffed the program. You don't know what riffs are. In reduction of force, as unfortunately some people had to be let go. But it was not serving kids. It became a babysitting service, and that's not what education is about. So I had to make that uncomfortable decision to make that recommendation to the board, and the fact that we're spending about $600,000 a year for a program that really was not benefiting kids. So we did that, but I created EdStream. EdStream is a completely tuition-based program, so parents pay for it. No money comes out of the board's money. The only thing I did is take some extra money in the beginning to buy robotics. So we have robotics in the technology side of things, and then we do pay a $5,000 stipend for a program manager. And so basically, I told them the concept was, here's stream. There's 5 letters. There's 5 days in a week. I want you to work on one thing every single day, and I want this countywide. Everybody's doing the same thing. So your job as the overseer is to develop the curriculum for an after-school program, because the concept is second school. It's not a babysitting service. We're teaching them beyond what we can teach them in the classroom. And by doing that, not only have we started closing learning gaps, we're starting to have kids on the math part of it. They're starting to do advanced concepts and solving equations in elementary school. And then they're taking that back to the classroom, and they're doing it in front of their teacher, and they're so far ahead. And so what we're seeing, parents can't wait to pay tuition so their kids can be a part of it. Teachers can't wait to be a part of it themselves. They get paid handsomely, but it doesn't come out of our money whatsoever. And what we're now seeing, the byproduct is, we're getting so much money built into this program tuition-wise, they're paying it forward back into the school. The school has updated iPads in every single classroom because of the money that they generated, no money from the board. They've been able to provide extra classroom instructional supply for every teacher's in their school because they have so much money left over. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to see, and it gives me chill bumps. And now it's a nationally recognized Blue Ribbon School program. And that was never my intent to be a blue ribbon. My intent was to provide the best opportunities for students to close this gap. And so, it's expanded and expanded and expanded to where now we're offering it in our lowest income areas that are title schools that have no extra money. Their parents are still trying to find ways to pay for it, to have their students a part of it. And our federal programs and extra money also kind of supplement that. So it still doesn't come out of the board's money. But what we're doing is a phenomenal concept for our kids where they're learning and don't even realize they're learning more concepts. They can't wait to be there.
This happens 5 days a week, Dr.
Yes, ma'am.
For what hours?
Right after school until 5:30, 6 o'clock every day.
Or they've served another meal?
Yes, they, after school.
After dinner?
They're part of the after dinner program. They serve a snack at the beginning and then a meal during the program. And that's free for all kids across the board as well.
And then did they pay weekly?
Yeah, it all depends on the parent. Technically, we try to pay monthly, and they just pay for the whole month. But we have different payment plans for everybody.
That was my next question, like for the poverty or
Yeah,
at-risk
absolutely.
children.
We work with them because we don't want to exclude the kid solely based because their parents can't afford it.
Right.
Because we will find a way, and we've had so much success that our communities have wanted to partner. We have churches that are donating money just so our students can come to the EdStream program. We have businesses that want to be able to donate money to it as well. So it's truly a community effort.
What about transportation?
It's at the schools. There's no buses, no anything. We just hold it right there at the school.
Right, but to get home.
Oh, at the parents come pick them up. We don't have a bus that runs, and we've never had an issue with it whatsoever. Because there's a lot of them that carpool together and those type things, but we've never had an issue of them picking it up because they see it truly as an after-school program, and they know that transportation is not divided.
Can a student be expelled or ejected from the program if they're?
Yeah, if their behaviors are bad and they're just, they cannot handle the program and they cannot act the appropriate way, we can say that you're not invited to stay because you're holding a slot for somebody who's on the waiting list to be a part of it. So, but honestly, I don't know if this is wood or not. We haven't had any discipline problems, which is amazing because the kids are having fun. They're having fun learning stuff. And when I go visit, they can't wait to show their products. And
So you have a certain number of slots available in
yeah,
this
we
program?
do it based on how many teachers volunteer to be a part of it. And each teacher has about 15 students that they're in charge of. We have special ed students, so we have special ed aides there. We have a nurse on staff. All of this is fully funded by the tuition. None of that comes out of
How
the
much
school.
is the tuition?
The tuition is about $40 a student per week.
Oh,
Yep.
and that pays for itself.
Yes, ma'am. It sure does. It's amazing. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. And, but anyway, that's how we worked on closing learning gaps, and we've seen, a huge advantage from doing that. One thing I failed to mention is also that was on there was CTE offerings. I'm a big proponent, and I like acronyms. You heard my 3 A's. I'm going to give you the 3 E's. Enroll, employ, enlist. Every single student needs to prepare for one of those outcomes in life. They're going to enroll in college, they're going to employ immediately after school, or they're going to enlist in the military. Anything less than that, we have failed them. But they need to be a part of something. But if we're going to promote that, then we need to give them opportunities to choose one of those 3 paths. And so CTE is something very close to my heart. My son is in the IT program. He doesn't desire to go to a major university. He wants to go to a technical school right after, be an IT person, and he's perfectly fine. He has autism. That suits him perfectly. My daughter wants to be a nurse, and she wants to play volleyball too. And I was like, well, we'll see. I mean, there's not a lot of nursing programs, that all correlate unless you want to go to Auburn or something like that. But so I have a strong passion for CTE offerings. When I stepped into superintendency, I brought back HVAC and I brought back horticulture because we had closed the programs, but those 2 are prevalent in today's society. But now what we're seeing is any type of issues with AC, we have the kids. They've been training. We take them out to schools and they help monitor our ACs, help update them, put Freon in them and do all that. So we're getting free labor, but we're also teaching them on the job at the same time. So, CT is very important for a lot of our students. And so it's something it's got to be looked at. You've got to have a great relationship with Gadsden State. Because I have my own CTE program, Eden Career Center. So, we offer automotive body. We do all this ourselves. You don't have that opportunity. I know you have the Calhoun Center right up the road or what have you, but there's got to be partners where, there's chances for students whether they go to Gadsden State to take some of these CT courses, or they come here for dual enrollment, whatever it may be. We've got to make sure that we offer them that opportunity to seek employment right after school, because not everybody's going to college. Not everybody's going to employment, and not everybody's going to military, but everybody's going to one of those. And so we've got to touch all those avenues. The next thing, college and career readiness, again, it goes along with the CT offerings and everything else, that we've got to prepare them for life after school. That's our goal. That's our calling in life, is to prepare them to walk across that stage, but have immediate success. Because we all want to retire and live on their money at some point. So we got to prepare them appropriately, because they sure are living on our money right now, right? And so we want to prepare them so that we can retire and enjoy our later years in life, and they can be productive members of society in whatever capacity that they have. So it's very important for us to really, really promote the opportunities necessary for students to have success beyond what we offer them. And then the recruiting and retaining staff, I've heard that the JSU relationship at times has been a little strained or whatever it may be, but Dr. Killingsworth and I went to school together, and so I know him personally. And so I have full confidence that our relationship with JSU is going to be even better than it's ever been. And I want there to be a pipeline for every college-bound student in our system to go straight to JSU and be accepted immediately. If that's what they want to do, let's go. I'm an Alabama grad. I went to UAB for my master's, and I got my doctorate from University of West Alabama. They need to have the opportunities to go there too. They can go to Auburn if they so choose, but I mean, no. I got family members with down there, and we love them anyway. So, but no, I mean, if they want to, we need to have a pipeline to colleges. But JSU, there has to be a to and from JSU. There has to be. Our students need to be able to go there, but as soon as those people at JSU are ready to become teachers, we need to be standing on the doorstep saying, we want you, we want you, we want you. Here's your contract. Here's, that's how you get them to come here, and that's how you keep that relationship and that pipeline. I have every intention to be able to find a way to get Dr. Killingsworth to allow me to go into these programs, the special ed programs, the math and the science programs, and speak in front of these people to talk about how great Jacksonville City schools are and how much we want you, and this is why you need to be us. Don't listen to Hoover. Don't listen to those places. They're garbage. You need to come here. Now, I'm being facetious there, I know. But that's the goal, is to be the premier destination for everybody. And so we wanted to make sure that they come to us, and so you've got to have that relationship there, and you've got to develop that. So that's how you recruit them. To retain them, again, you got to show them you value them. People want to know they're worth something, and what they do matters. Because at the end of the day, when God calls us home, people are going to forget our names, but they will never forget how we made them feel. And if we make them feel valued and like they're worth something, that goes beyond any title, that goes beyond any legacy. That's what we are, and that's who we're about. And so that's how you keep staff is, yeah, we might not be able to pay you more than somebody else. We're going to love you more than everybody else. We're going to give you the tools and the resources to be successful. We're going to want you to be leaders in our buildings. We're going to want you to get your master's. We're going to want you to get your doctorate. We're going to help you do those things to grow professionally. That's how you get people to stay. So, obviously pay them more money, and that helps a little bit too, but money runs out. And if they're only after money, somebody else is going to offer them somewhere else, and they're going to go take the money somewhere else. But if you make them feel valued and you really support them, they're going to look past a lot of money sometimes in order to keep that feeling of self-worth.
Jacksonville City Schools is currently on sound financial footing. There are predictions and concerns regarding future budget issues after various federal funding is discontinued. Share with us your plans for shepherding the district through difficult and uncertain financial times.
Yeah, if you become self-reliant on state and federal funding, you're going to fail. Period. And I know it's a necessary evil. You rely on it. You got to have your federal program, and you got to have your CMP. You got to have those things to be able to function. But if that's the only way that you can function, when that money dries up and you have no plan, you're going to suffer and you're going to fail. And this is what I've told the board, where I am over and over again. I said, look, we can employ these math coaches. We can employ these reading coaches. We can have more staffing here, more staffing there. But if you put all your ESSER money into staffing, when that dries up, what are you going to do with that staff? Because if they're tenured, you got to make room for them now. But if they're not tenured, you're going to walk in and fire 11, 12 reading coaches. Your students are going to suffer when you do that. So we got to have a plan. The moment you don't have a plan for the future is the moment you fail. So you got to plan for the inevitable. But like I had told Mr. Gossett earlier, every best laid plan is on paper. But you've got to have a true working way to make it happen. And so you got to think about, all right, what we're preparing for now is the end result in 2024 when all this money dries up. So we got to be careful not buy and purchase programs with ESSER fundings that we can't sustain long term, because you don't want to start something that you can't finish. You need to see things through fidelity. If you start employing a ton of people, you've got to have a plan in order to employ those people once this money goes away. And if it's something that you can't and there's no way you can do, then you got to make the decision, is it good for the short term but we're okay losing it for the long term? Or is this something that we might not need to do right now because we're going to hurt some feelings in the end because we're going to have to let you go? You've got to make those decisions now, way before 2024 occurs. And you got to make sure that that plan is rock solid, because you don't want to sit here and I have to walk down to Ms. Blunt's office and say, hey, we got $1 million more than, local funded units that we've got to absorb in our budget. She's going to probably say some unkind things to me. And so,
Well, and the fact is, you can't absorb it forever.
No, absolutely.
It can't sustain itself.
Absolutely. And that's like with pay raises. I mean, yeah, it sounds great for 1 year, but how are you going to sustain it the second year? Because that money's going to dry up, and next thing you know, you're going to have to go to Montgomery and say, who are you going to fire to make your 1 month reserve? So absolutely, you got to have a plan. So it's very important. Program is one of those things that you've got to be very careful of. And we were very careful. We have a reading program called Lexia. We had Read 180 prior to me, and I taught Read 180 and hated it with a passion, because I felt that my students were not getting what I was trying to get them to get out of it. I felt it was a waste of money, and we were spending $1 million a year basically on this program that wasn't working. And I'm like, well, we can spend half of that over here with the Lexia program that's built for dyslexic students, but it's working for all students who have reading issues. And we bought it and it's working great. But I didn't budget that in ESSER. I put that in the general fund area because I wanted to make sure it was there. And so the way that we've been able to be very creative, I work with the CSFO, and we want to make sure that all of our hard-nosed things that we've got to have is not funded through ESSER, because we want it to be sustained. Anything funded through ESSER, now we can fund it through ESSER, but we know it's still a general fund project. That's something that we've got to go through with. And so anything funded out of ESSER is things that we're okay being short-term solutions. We're okay offering, this extra opportunity, night class, whatever, to get caught up, or we're okay offering some tutoring camps in the summertime that goes above and beyond, because we're going to work those away, because eventually they're going to get caught back up. We're okay spending extra money on those type things because we know at the end of the day, these things will go away after a couple of years. You have to be very careful, with the people part of it, because then you become obligated to make a very difficult decision. And this is something that, I'm not going to be St. Clair superintendent past that point because I chose not to seek reelection, but in a couple of years, they're going to have to make a decision about these math coaches because we did fund them out of ESSER. And I think it's a long-term solution that they're going to have to start budgeting for now. And I've already started working with my current CSFO to work through those things to absorb those in a few years because there's such a necessity. But to get it rolling, I had to use ESSER funds. We didn't have it in the budget. So you got to get it started, and then you got to figure out a way to make it work. But if I felt like it was only a short-term solution, I would never even be trying to rack my brain around how we're going to absorb this in the general fund, because, it's just going to be something that we're going to do with ESSER and move on. So the biggest thing is organization and planning. I know I'm kind of coming full circle. You've got to know where you're going in a few years and what you're going to do. And you've got to do a true needs assessment on your finances. And the relationship that I have with Ms. Blunt is going to be extremely important. I told her today, we got to be like brother and sister. I mean, we really do, because I've got to be able to bring ideas and she's got to shoot some of them down. Hopefully not all of them, but some of them she's got to shoot down, and she's got to have ideas that I may not agree with, because that's how we function and that's how we work, because you employ the CSFO to be the absolute end-all say-all when it comes to finances, period. Because if it don't fly there, it ain't gonna fly nowhere else. And so her job is to make sure that we're always in financial standing. Now, there's always an agreement that we got to come and have programs and certain things like that that benefit staff and students. But that relationship's got to be great, because there is an end date with ESSER. Nobody wants to admit it, that it's coming to an end, but it is coming to an end. And there's going to be a lot of people having to make some very hard decisions of letting folks go that they really don't want to have to let go. And so we need a plan for that now. And until I can really dive in to see where we are and what programs are funded through ESSER and everything else, I can kind of give you a roundabout answer to it.
Due to the size of our school district, the superintendent handles the operation of a variety of programs and duties. Explain your experiences in dealing with different programs such as special ed, federal programs, career tech, at-risk program, ESSER 1, 2, and 3.
Yes, ma'am. I have my hand in everything. I told you earlier I'm not a micromanager, but I want to be involved in all of it. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to be held accountable for the decisions that are made. And so I want to make sure that the decisions that coordinators make or directors make, and, a system my size, I have the buffer, but I'm involved in all of it. But at the end of the day, like I said, I have to make those decisions. They come to me with the idea of what they feel is best. I help them research it. We look at different angles, and then I bring that to the board if it truly is the right decision to make. And I'm hands-on with this stuff. I don't want to be blindsided. I don't want you blindsided, and so we've got to make sure we do that. Special education, near and dear to me. I mean, it really is. But I will say this, and I know the system our size, there's going to be duties that I will have to take, and I'm fully fine because I'm a worker, and I'll take as many as I need to take, but I don't want to take so much on myself that it deters me from being the face of the community, to being the person who has to garner that support, because if I'm pulled in 5 different directions and I can't do those things, we're not going to really prosper the way that we need to prosper. And then I become a manager rather than a leader. And if you need a manager, then we just need to hire more coordinators. and, have a team of deciding factors, So there has to, and plus, I believe there has to be a separation of certain duties of a superintendent. Superintendent should never be the HR coordinator. Because if I walk in the building and I'm immediately the enemy, I'm not going to get anything out of anybody, because everybody's thinking I'm there to fire somebody. And so there has to be a division there. There has to be the division between the superintendent and finances. Because I have to bring finances to you. The CSFO has to bring finances to you to vote on. But if I'm having to make the decisions of the budget and everything else, like in federal programs, there's a conflict of interest there. Because I may like a program and I'm saying, you know what, I really like that. I'm going to give an extra, $300,000 for this because I like it. It may not benefit anybody, but, I'm going to make that recommendation anyway. And I'm going to give you a great reason why. And you're going to believe me and trust me. But you see what I'm saying? There needs to be a division there as well. Now, my forte, as you can tell, is organization. I'm very task-oriented, and I gravitate toward student discipline and safety. And you can see in my raising the bar thing that's there, and I'll probably talk about discipline a little bit more in a minute. If you can't get safety and discipline right, nothing else matters, period. And so I have a personal investment every day in those. And yes, I have a student services director. He's in charge of, helping me organize the code of conduct and the discipline and all this other stuff. He oversees that part of it, and he handles complaints from parents about student issues when when their baby got disciplined, they shouldn't have whatever. He's the buffer in between. But I have a personal investment in that. One, my two kids go to school. I want to make sure that they're safe. I want to make sure that they're held accountable just like their neighbors held accountable for their actions. So discipline is one of those things that I'll take. If I need to take on, I'll take on right now. It's great. Safety is another thing. I want to make sure we have SROs. I want to make sure that we have a safety plan. We bought Crisis Go in St. Clair County, which is an app for your phone that does drills and alerts first responders on the spot if something's happening at school. It notifies every first responder. It notifies every employee at that school, everybody at central office, that there is something wrong at XYZ school immediately. We don't have to dial 911. We ain't got to do any of that stuff. Best purchase I've ever made. Because with any issue that we've had, we've hit that bad boy, and next thing you know, you got police officers and everybody rolling into that school as quickly as possible. A fight, whatever it may be. If it goes off, we're all running. And so that has been something that I have, felt really passionate about, and it's worked. It really has worked well. So that's where I kind of gravitate toward now. But I've had, like I said, a hand in everything. In federal programs, I help with budgeting. I do EGAP. I do all the things that are associated with the State Department and federal department with the forms and everything else. I lead professional development workshops. I lead our leadership development workshops with our internal people. I speak, at Mega. I do all these other things as well. I'm not afraid to do whatever it takes to get the job done. But at the end of the day, I need to be your superintendent, which is the face in the community, which garners their support so that we can do our job more efficiently. And I need to be in the classrooms. I can't say every day because things happen, but the goal is to be in the classrooms every day. And I will say it will be so great to have 2 schools rather than 19 that I'm trying to get into every day, because you talking about being pulled, because St. Clair, I'm sure you've seen how big that county is. I have to be very strategic of where I go. I mean, if I plan to go to Moody and Ragland, that's an hour and 15-minute drive between our further schools. And so I have to prepare my day to go that way or prepare my day to go this way. And of course you get 1,000 phone calls and you get pulled and you got emails and you got everything else. And so I don't get in the classrooms as much as I want because I'm pulled in so many directions with a system our size. And so, I really look forward to a system this size because I feel like I can be where I'm supposed to be. And that's seeing teachers do the great work that they do every day, and seeing my students and my students seeing me every day so they know who their superintendent is and that he really truly cares for me. And that's what I want to be. So I know that there's going to be a lot with the job with a system this size, but hopefully you know my personality right now, that I'll roll up my sleeve, and if I need to be a custodian for a day, if I need to go serve lunches one day, whatever it takes, I'm going to get the job done because our students deserve it.
Discipline and safety in our schools are also priorities. Describe how you would support administrators and teachers in order to cultivate a disciplined environment, a safe environment, and an orderly school environment.
But and obviously I've spoken on this quite a bit tonight as it is, but like I said, and again, I say safety and discipline are priorities 1 and 2. Because education can't occur if people don't feel safe in the environment they're in. You know, the tragedy that happened a couple weeks ago is heartbreaking, and I'm sure we all shed a tear about that, because we can put our kids in that situation and see, what's going on. And, there's no easy solution. There is no easy, this is the answer to it, because everybody's different. Everybody's, deals with different mental health issues and those type things. But, with discipline and safety, you've got to make sure that you have a strong mental health program. It's very important. We partner with Project COPE to provide mental health services beyond what the schools, because school counselors are not trained in mental health counseling. They're not. Just like administrators is not, trained in, registrations and, counseling and all the other things, we're just not trained. We have our areas and we're trained in those areas. So I met Ms. Fahmy today and I've heard about her, and I look forward to working with her, hopefully, on mental health issues. But I told her today, and I'm telling you, mental health doesn't just belong just to the students, it belongs to the adults too, because we all struggle. And so we got to make sure that we're taking care of our staff too. We've got to give them opportunities to vent safely. We got to give them opportunities to take care of themselves spiritually and mentally, because if they don't, they will burn out, they will quit. I don't care how much money you throw at them. If they hate their job, they will not work here. And so we've got to make sure that the mental health component is there. And I think that's going to be even more priority as we move forward in the near future. I think you'll see more and more legislative funding coming for mental health counseling. Like we had this year, we had an influx of money for coordinators and everything else. So I think that's going to be key. I think in safety, obviously storefronts, but I saw all that you have safety foyers and you got SROs in your schools. Those are things I say we need, but you already know that. And I would implore you, even if I'm not your superintendent, look at the safety app, because it's really, really good. And it does put a peace of mind into the staff there that help is a button away on my phone. More than me running.
Name of that app?
Crisis Go.
Crisis Go?
Yes. And y'all do? Oh, well, then y'all are good to go then, and it's phenomenal. It really, really is. And we've had a bomb threat where we had to activate it before. We've had other situations. Thank goodness we've never had anything major, obviously. But at the end of the day, like I said, discipline, everybody needs to know where that line is. Parents need to know where that line is. Students need to know where that line is, and staff need to know where that line is. And they got to know that when somebody surpasses that line, that there's a quick, fair, and consistent consequence. And people will learn where the line is and learn when not to cross it. But if you're, again, throwing darts at a dartboard on how you assess your consequences, nobody knows the line, then it feels unfair. It feels like you're not being transparent. It feels like you're showing favoritism to one person or another person or whatever it may be. And so that is very important, and it's very important to disseminate that information to the public, that here's our code of conduct, here is our discipline ladder, and this is what we expect from our students, from our staff, from ourselves, and this is how we need your help. You need to explain over the summer, these are our expectations for your child. But if your child meets these expectations, they're going to achieve more than they ever have before, because we're going to get them across the stage with the confidence to know that they can take on the world. And it all starts with discipline. Without that, none of this is possible.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Howard, do
Yes.
you have any questions for us or need to?
When do I start?
Explain this to us?
I can just stand outside and tell everybody else just go home. So, I'm excited about just the opportunity to be in front of you. I'm very passionate, and I love talking to people. I love to talk about the great things that we do. I really do. I'm a promoter of the school system. I don't know if you've ever seen me on TV, but I'm on TV all the time, it seems, because Channel 13, everybody always wants to talk to me for some reason. I don't know why. I guess it's my good looks, but I enjoy doing it. It's arduous, and it can be tedious at times, and it's just you don't want to do it. But every time I can get in front of a camera, anytime I can get in front of media, anytime I can get in front of a city council member, chamber of commerce, I'm promoting my school. I'm promoting my students, I'm promoting my staff. So next time when I have to come and I need a handout and I need your help, you've seen me, you know what I'm about, and you know what we do.
Well,
Instead of me.
you've given us this pamphlet. You want to talk about
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. I can do that as well. And all right, so if you look through this, what I did, basically it's an action plan. Everybody's seen an action plan. And I always hesitate giving stuff like this out because everybody seems to give y'all stuff. And I know how it goes because I host a lot of interviews myself as well. But, when you're going back trying to think of my responses to answers and certain things like that, you'll be able to see kind of some bullet points in some key areas. And of course, I outlined the safety and discipline, which I've spoken about a lot tonight. The clear direction, like I said before, it's one message, many voices, but we're all speaking the same language. And if we do that, then we're consistent, we're concise, and we can hold people to the standards that you expect them to be held to. I talked about the athletics, academics, and the arts, the 3 A's. And again, just going back to that for just a second, it's important for our students to have the opportunities to be a part of any of those they want to be a part of. Because if they belong to something, then they're not going to do something else. And what I mean by that, idle hands is the devil's playground. I'm sure we've all heard that phrase before. And so we need them to be a part of something, because if they invest themselves into the school, then they're going to be less likely to do the things to contradict what the school needs. And when those students go out, they represent us in every capacity. It doesn't matter if they're a current student, a former student, they represent Jacksonville City Schools. And so we need to make sure that we give them opportunities to represent us the right way. Enroll employee lists, I've talked about, I'm very passionate about those. It was banners on the wall. When I walked into St. Clair County High School, I had banners ordered immediately. When you walk in, the first banner said empowered, then enroll, employ, enlist. And they passed by it every day when they walked in that building. And that's what we preached every day to them, that you're going to do one of those three things, because we're going to empower you to do the other ones. And I think that becomes a mindset. If you say it enough and you talk about raising the bar and you really tell them you have those high expectations, you say it enough, it's going to happen. But on the enroll piece, we have got to have a great relationship with JSU, Gadsden State, and anybody else we need to branch out to. Because if you don't have that relationship, now our counselors are going to have a hard time finding a place for some of our students. And then we also got to have a great relationship with local businesses, because when students want to go straight to employment after high school, we need to be able to say, hey, I got some students for you right here. This one loves HVAC work. They've been working with dual enrollment. They want to be an apprentice for so-and-so. Can you help us out? So that's building that relationship with local businesses. That's where the Chamber of Commerce comes in vitally, so you can start building those relationships. Enlisting, same thing. We have a JROTC program in St. Clair County that all the students, it's at St. Clair County High School. I mean, I hosted it when I was principal there, and we bussed in all the students from the whole county that wanted to take JROTC with us. So we had Moody folks there, Springville, and we're all rivals, but hey, they were all taking the program together. It's a hard program to staff, because the Army is not nice when it comes to staffing people, because there's certain criteria that they got to go through. Now, we can find ex-military people. You walk out the door and you can throw a rock and hit some of them, right? But they can't necessarily come to school to teach because they don't meet the military's credentials to be able to teach in our school. So if you go down that road, and if you don't already have one, if you want one, there's a lot of things you got to do, and it's not easy to find those people. But we want to promote that, because we want people to serve our country, to keep us safe every day. So we want to promote that and work with the colleges and our armories and everything that's close by to find a great pipeline from us to the military as well, so they have that opportunity. I talk about investing. We need to invest, and I'm not just saying finances. Yes, finances helps, but we need to have our time and our energy invested in the right places. We got to make sure we're invested in our staff, because if we invest in our staff, they're going to invest in our students. And we've got to, again, invest in our students, because we want to create opportunities for them, but also we got to invest in our parents and community relations. We've got to make a conscientious effort of involving our parents in things that we do, whether it be fair events, whether it be parent nights, whatever it may be. We've got to be able to be willing to open our doors to the community to have them be a part of what we're doing here, as long as it's safe. We got to keep everybody safe. Background checks, all those things that we've got to do, but we've got to have that strong partnership with the parent community in order to make a school system function correctly. And obviously, we got to invest in our students. Relationships, again, I'm a big relationship guy. I like to cut up a little bit. I'm very serious. I'm very professional all the time. But I do like to keep things light and airy because if you're one way all the time, people, see you as abrasive. They see you as stuffy and hard to approach. And so we've got to keep things fun for everybody because that builds that positive relationships. And also it builds a trust and it puts people at ease knowing, hey, I'm not just smoke and mirrors. I truly care about my job. I truly care about you. I truly care about your students. I truly care about the parents. That's important because that's where the partnership belongs. And then also, in order for me to have a true, obviously the relationship between us has to be, just one of trust, one, of love. I don't want to be corny, but that truly has to be because our heart's got to be in the right place, our mind's got to be in the right place, and you got to know that when I make a decision that's not going to be popular, but it's the right one, that you got my back, that you're going to stand up in the face of your constituents. And I know that's hard because I'm there with you, but I got to know you got my back, just like those teachers and those administrators, when they have to make a hard decision, that they know I'm going to stand up to that parent for you because I got your back too. And so that's got to happen across the board. And again, we got to have a great relationship with the county commission. They control a lot of purse strings. And I have a really good working relationship with one in St. Clair County, and I truly believe that's important. I believe that the relationship that I have with the mayor has got to be one of trust as well, that we've got to be on the same page as well. He understands what we're trying to do in the school system. We're understanding what he's trying to do in the city of Jacksonville, that we're working together and having a partnership. Same thing with the rest of the council members. And then, the business is the key missing piece that a lot of people forget about. You talk about parents, you talk about community support, but then you don't get the support of the local businesses. And they're the ones who employ our kids on a nightly basis or whatever. And so we got to have a really good relationship with them. Communication, I believe in being honest, open, and transparent. And I hate the word transparency because we're already transparent. But people always perceive that you're hiding something. That's just the nature of the beast in education. It doesn't matter what you do. You could be on national media, on TV, and they still believe you're hiding something. It's just the way it is. But you've got to communicate with people in as many different ways that you possibly can. You got to be open with them. You got to tell them the truth, even when the truth hurts. You got to tell them the truth because that's the only way you can build trust. And again, you've got to be able to say the word no. No is not the worst word in the dictionary. It hurts the most at times, but it's still not the worst word. And people need to hear the word no, but no should empower them to try to find another way to make a yes. And if they just give up, then they didn't really care about it to begin with. That's just the way, my philosophy is, and I'm not a big no person because I'm going to help you find a way to make it work. But sometimes, it just kind of is. But in that communication piece, you got to have clear expectations for everybody. Everybody's got to know where you're coming from and where you want to go. And because if there's any wishy-washy or, you talk about raising the bar, but you're not really going to tell us how we're going to raise the bar, how is that a clear expectation? And then they're not going to know how to get on board with you, and they're not going to know how to partner with you. And then, again, like I said, the last piece, and again, these are not in any particular order, except for discipline and safety. That's priority one. But sport's the other one, that we all have to support each other. I'm in this for the long run. I'm telling you now, I've got 15 good years in me. I want nothing more to be here for the long run because I don't look at jobs as a way to raise pay so I can move and do all. That's not me. That's not my personality. I want to find a home where I can invest in the community, be a part of it. If I got to coach T-ball, whatever it is, I want people to know that I'm invested. Yeah. Give me a little time. But football, I'm all about, T-ball stuff, yeah. I've coached baseball and softball, but golf, hey, we can do that too. But, that support, and it goes every way possible, that we really have to support each other. We have to support the community, and the community's got to support us. And so I've got to build that level of support with those around me, because I can talk about it all day long until they see me working, until they see my passion, until they see my heart. They're not going to know what I'm truly about until that moment. So I know you're going to take a leap of faith. Whoever you decide, whether it be me or another superintendent, you're taking a leap of faith. You got to believe that the 10 answers that we all give you is what you want, and that we're truthful, and that we're going to fulfill everything that we possibly said. but, you know, I don't think anybody's going to match my enthusiasm. I don't think anybody's going to match my heart, and I don't think anybody's going to match my work ethic. And I'm not just saying that just to try to get this job, because that's not what this is about. I want to help kids, and I want to help staff be the best version of themselves, because we're only given one day at a time. I'm not wasting today, because I'm not guaranteed tomorrow, because God may say tonight, Mike, it's time to come home. So I'm going to give you everything I got today. And I want that same thing. Man, I get fired up, sorry. But I want that same thing from the people that work around me, because our kids' lives are at stake, and I don't take that for granted, and I really want them to be great. So, sorry, I didn't mean to get emotional, but I really care about what I do. And if I'm not your guy, I totally get it, because I want what's best for you. And if I'm not that person, then that's fine. God will call me in some other direction, and if I've got to, you know, say if you like fries with that, I'm pretty good with that. I ain't old enough to retire yet, but I got to find a way. But no, I truly intend that, like I said, if you select me, you're getting me for the long haul. I'm not sitting here. I have no aspirations to go to the State Department. I have no aspirations of being, you know, the superintendent of some great, wonderful, blah, 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 making, you know, blah, blah, blah. None of that's me. I don't put in for jobs that I don't fully expect to take on the spot. That's not who I am. That's not who my granddaddy raised, and that's not what I'm about. I'm here to be your superintendent and to partner with you to make this thing extraordinary. And all I can say is just buckle up, because it's going to be a fun ride. So,
Thank you, Dr. Howard.
thank you.
Have a good evening.
All right.